This is Contestants Not Appearing on Stage, a weekly podcast for game show enthusiasts. Episode number 25, To Tell a Fib, recorded June 19th, 2016. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Contestants Not Appearing on Stage. After an intermittent hiatus, thank you for sticking with us and enjoying this new episode. My name is Torgo. I am joined by three people on the other side of this dais. Contestant number one, what is your name, please?
My name is Jack Jackson, host of The Price is Right.
Thank you. Contestant number two, what is your name?
My name is Mickey Spillane.
And what do you do?
I'm just Mickey Spillane. That's it.
I need to have a talk with contestant hiring. And contestant number three, what is your name?
My name is Nicholas Toder.
All right. First on the docket, this happened quite a number of weeks ago, but I think it's absolutely worth discussing. You may have seen this in some viral clips that were trending for a while on The Price is Right. About 3 weeks ago or so, they had a deaf contestant, Marcia, on the show, and she played One Away, which, if you don't know, for whatever reason, is the car game, which is probably best known as the one where the contestant has to say, "Almighty sound effects lady, do I have at least one number right, two numbers, what have you?" And they're answered with a horn if they do have that number correct. For you old-timers out there who kind of disregard the Drew Carey era, ladies, do I have one number right, and what have you? And as we were watching it live, we definitely had a sense of it being a little awkward to watch, because they've had games on the show before where they have accommodated and bent the rules a little bit for contestants with various disabilities. One that comes to mind offhand is somebody who couldn't walk normally playing Switcheroo, and they just eliminated the timer entirely. Do you think that the show handled having a deaf contestant play One Away as well as they could have, or do you think that they should have made some more adjustments in order to accommodate her?
Under the circumstances, I think they did fine. Would I, in retrospect, say it was a pretty terrible idea? Yes. I mean, we're in a day and age on Price where they pretty well hand-select contestants, and they are pretty sure their lineups beforehand. The easier thing to do, I know obviously Price is Right's a game of luck at times when it comes to the items up for bid, but be ready with a backup game, as far as I'm concerned. Drew handled it as well as it could be done. I just think, in retrospect, maybe you should have been prepared for that.
I disagree 100% with you. It doesn't affect your gameplay at all. Like, you know, it's a format, it's a part of it's a gimmick, I guess is the word I'm looking for, and I understand where you're coming from, but this isn't like an elderly contestant playing race game where they're at an extreme disadvantage. There is nothing that affects your gameplay and pricing of the car in One Away that contestant could not have done. I think they handled it 100% correctly.
I get that portion of it, but something just seemed off to me about having a contestant play that couldn't hear in a game where they make it a point that you're supposed to be hearing something. I get that it doesn't affect the gameplay, and so it's fine. She can certainly play it as well, but the idea that you have to hear the horns honking was something that's been built into the game since day one, and as it went on from day one, it became an iconic part of the game when Bob turned it from gentlemen to ladies and Drew turned it from ladies to the almighty sound effects lady. So it's a big portion of it, and I felt that she couldn't, properly play the game in that sense with her being deaf. I understand it doesn't change how she plays the game. It just felt weird. And I was very surprised that they decided to do it anyway with her coming down.
I guess my question to you is, would you have preferred her getting called down, because I believe it was 5th that day, would you prefer her just getting called down 6 so then she doesn't get as many chances to come up? Or would you have preferred if she got up, they switch out the game?
I mean, I don't think they have to switch out the game per se, but I think they played I think they played any number as the other card game in the first half. I certainly think they probably could have switched those two games around to make it so that they could call her down at the same spot they called her down at, and she still have just as much chance to get up on stage to play for any number car. So,
but then technically, I mean, and obviously we wouldn't have known if they did that or not, but wouldn't the contestant who played any number have been maybe at a disadvantage, depending on how you look at it, because they're playing a completely different game and they don't get to play that game because of the other contestant?
I mean, yes and no, if only because the contestant coming up on stage had no idea what game they'd be playing.
The thing that bothers me is if you're going to do this and you're going to have a deaf contestant playing one away, it's hard that the way JJ mentioned that you have to go into the game listening for those horns. What are you going to do to rectify that?
What do you mean rectify it?
Well, I mean, I didn't mind what they ended up doing. It just came across as awkward to me. I didn't mind the idea of having her interpreter stand beside Drew and signal to her, or her look out to the audience. I didn't mind it. I just felt that it looked awkward.
I agree that it looked awkward, but at the same time, it represents the fact that, she does have, the disability, and their show is, still letting the contestant play the game as if, she has all the same abilities as, your average contestant does.
Right. Here's my problem with it. I don't have a problem with how they handled the situation. I feel like a lot of the complaints that Adam has would absolutely be valid if there was no interpreter on stage. Just leaving poor Marcia up there alone without someone to signal to her what was going on, yeah, that would be terrible. But I thought that they handled it the best that they could. However, and Adam did touch upon this briefly, knowing that they pre-select contestants for the show, they knew that they were going to have a deaf contestant going in before the show had even started. So you better believe that, in my opinion, the show was hoping that she would get one away because they really heavily promoted it. It's like, you don't want to miss this moment of The Price is Right on social media and everything. So I kind of felt like that was kind of exploiting her disability in a way just to get more people to be aware of the show, and that is what doesn't sit right with me.
I mean, you're glorifying deafness. I mean, it's great that a deaf person is on The Price is Right, but if you're going to exploit them for ratings, I don't want to say it seeks to a new low, but it really kind of hurts you a bit mentally as a fan.
I wouldn't call it exploiting for ratings unless there was a commercial be like, make sure you tune in this Monday, The Price is Right, where a deaf person plays one away. What's going to happen? Yeah, they're not going to do that. It's just the social media end of it afterwards where they're trying to get views online. It's not quite the same extent, but it's still something about it rubs me the wrong way.
I think, though, they probably picked her because she had a great personality, because that probably would make great TV, but maybe not because she would be playing one away. I mean, she was called down, I think, 4th or something like that, so it was still plenty of chances for her to play something besides one away. It just so happened to line up that she ended up playing this game, and that's what made us notice it more, because she probably could have gotten up and played something like Squeeze Play or something as intensive as, I don't know, Switcheroo maybe, where she's trying to switch blocks, but she's got to look out at the audience. So I can understand that they probably picked her to make great TV, but not just to play one away specifically for the viral moment.
And I agree with that. I know that in the past you mentioned Switcheroo. They've had both elderly contestants, and then they had a contestant in a wheelchair that had played Switcheroo before. Do you think that if those contestants had been playing this today, that those would have been viral like moments that they wanted as well?
I think so. I think they certainly wouldn't have had a problem with having, hey, look at this 99-year-old person, totally, maybe if they win Switcheroo, like, look at this 99-year-old person be Switcheroo, or look at this, I don't know what you could do with a wheelchair contestant. I don't know if they would do much other than say, watch this inspiring person play Switcheroo maybe, but I think they certainly would have tried.
And on that note, with the wheelchair contestant, at least this time they weren't getting any backlash from the fans that, oh, the wheelchair person was playing for a treadmill, as it was however long ago that was.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I think this was awkward, but I'm glad to see that it's not getting the blowback that thing got. because this wasn't that bad in my opinion anyway. So
That's fair, but I mean, there is absolutely room for a debate. So leave a comment as to what side of the issue you lie on. Did you just take it in stride, had no issues with it? Did you think that it was inappropriate for a deaf person to play, or did you think that having a deaf person on a show where One Away was going to happen was just dirty pool in the first place? Moving on to Wheel of Fortune, Randy actually gets to discuss Wheel of Fortune on the podcast for once. I know he's excited. And they
I'll be here for another hour discussing this. Trust me.
And they had a week-long introduction of a new category on Wheel of Fortune, which is the biggest fanfare a new category has gotten on the show in at least as long as I can remember watching the show. Crossword clues, where they have multiple words arranged like a crossword puzzle. Some of them would be running across, and then words read down as well, and it's just a new methodology completely different from any other puzzle we've seen on Wheel of Fortune. The first thing I remember asking myself is, how do you solve it? Is there, in a way, multiple ways to solve the puzzle? Can you do all the across words and then the down words, or do you have to go left to right, like across, down, across? I don't think that they ever made any explicit mention to that, so I think that that's a little strange. But the main debate that I'm seeing people have is, do you feel that this category is quote-unquote jumping the shark for Wheel of Fortune? I mean, yeah, Wheel of Fortune could have jumped the shark ages upon ages ago, but that's not the point of this discussion. Or do you think that it's just a fun new way to try and breathe some life into the show?
Real quick on the note you said on reading it, yeah, Pat did not. He pretty much, whenever a contestant said they wanted to solve, he just said, say what's up there, which made it pretty clear they didn't care what order you read it in. On the same note, though, it didn't happen, but I was waiting for the backlash if a contestant accidentally put the word "and" in them, like before the last word, because you're supposed to only read what's up there, and technically that would have been wrong. So if that had happened, they would have gotten pretty poor because they would have had to rule against, and then all of that controversy. But besides that point, first of all, I apologized to Wheel of Fortune about a month ago. I said you guys were stale and you need to come up with something new. Didn't know these episodes have been taped, so I apologize for that. That being said, I'm not sure I'm a huge fan of the category in itself, and especially I did not like the fact that it was every single day, if not for the fact that before and after went an entire week without being played. That'll never happen again. I don't know if JJ or Adam, I could keep going on for a while if you guys have any more comments.
JJ's had enough soliloquies on this podcast. I think you're due for one, Randy.
Oh,
So
I can keep
go
going
right
a while.
ahead.
Usually I just wait. I hear Adam trying to say something and I just cut him off. I'm like, no. Even Jordan's like, go ahead, Adam. And I'm like, nah, Adam, you're not talking until I finish this monologue I got going on here. I like the fact that they're coming up with something different. I like that fact. And it's not horrible, but it's weird. Like, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, it's different, but at the same time, like I feel like it's almost too easy with the categories being, what was it? One day it was like hot things. So if you have a 3-letter word and it's hot things, you know that's going to be sun. On the other note, I know people have mentioned this before, because the words are connected, you only get money for the one. If sun is the S is connected between the words, you only get the money for that one S. It's not between two different words where you would if they were not connected. So, some people have said, well, that's, Wheel of Fortune being cheap or whatnot. I don't think that's it at all. I think, they took this, I believe it was the Spanish version of the show or something like that. They took this from.
I believe so.
And I think it's it's good to try something, and they're getting, this is also getting the social media. They're promoting and saying, hey, come to our website. I think one of the options was, do you want to see this every day? No, that's a heck no from me. I would not want to see it every day. I know when the prize puzzles first started, they were, I believe, once a week things for the first couple seasons. And then all of a sudden they were every day because they were promoting, the spin ID and whatnot. I feel like this would be much better like those, maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks, something familiar enough that a normal person watching would say, oh, I've seen this category before, but, not like rare enough that they're like, what the heck, what is this category, like, what are we supposed to do? Like, I kind of like the fact that they introduced it in 1 week so you could kind of get a feel for it, but at the same time, every day is too much in my opinion.
I would personally think that crossword clues would work best as a toss-up category, because that way you have it and you have to think about it, and it wouldn't be an instant solve for people. I mean, it would be a longer toss-up. Not
No
all the
offense,
time, but I
Tor.
feel like that... I mean, it's just an idea.
I know, and there's no such thing as a stupid idea, but I really think that's a really piss poor idea. I'm sorry.
All right, justify it.
Well, justify what?
Why it's a piss poor idea.
Well, because toss-ups are meant to be like 2 words, maybe 3, like not that long, because, if we have, like 3 or 4 words connected on here, like that's going to be how long, and then you have to sit there and do it. That's not the point of a toss-up.
They've
Toss-up's
had
supposed to be
3-word
quick.
crossword puzzles.
Yeah, and I'm sure they have, but you have to sit here and think about it. Okay, that word's connected to that word's connected. That's not the point of a toss-up. A toss-up is supposed to be quick. You buzz in, you get the money that decides who starts the next round, unless it's the pointless first toss-up.
Well, the main reason I mention that is because usually the toss-ups are really closely tied to the theme of the week. So I'm thinking
So you're saying
would
that
be
the
a
theme
way
of...
Yeah, so make
Are
the
you
theme of the week the category for the crossword clue. Does that make sense?
I understand where you're coming. I still think it's a piss poor idea.
Oh,
But
well.
it doesn't make so it's Walmart Family Week, and then we're gonna have like Walmart items as the crossword puzzle or something.
Well, not necessarily, but it could be like stuff about, where Walmart's from, family, shopping, smiley. I don't think smiley is an appropriate
And-
Wheel of Fortune word, but
But at the same time, this is already a super long puzzle. Like, that is not, as I'm saying, the point of a toss-up is not for you to sit there and look and trying to put all these words together. That would take, extra time that we don't have for this show.
But if there's a toss-up going on, aren't you being given the letters? At some point, your brain's going to go, "Whoop, you got it." I mean, it's not like...
if my brain
It's gonna
goes
be any
with that
different
sound, admit me to a hospital immediately.
Can I give my
get,
thoughts?
Yes.
you get what I mean.
I like it. I also was very happy to see them trying something else. I don't love it because it looks like it can be confusing, but I like the idea. I like seeing something different on the puzzle board. It's a weird format to see on the puzzle board.
Just the fact that those
And-
words vertical.
So, but I mean, listen, they're bringing back crossword clue. I would love to see some clue or fill in the blank make a return. I would love to see them try that out. I don't know why they wouldn't do that. That would be nice instead of
Because
just
that
making a whole
involves
new
giving
category.
away more money, JJ, and they're not going to do that.
But at the
Just
same
make-
time,
I mean, you could make hard clue puzzles that people could solve. Like, who was the first president of the Elvis fan club? That's something that somebody could solve as a puzzle, but they wouldn't know what it meant. They wouldn't know who that was. I don't know who that is.
but at the same time, why did they get rid of the clue and the fill-in-blank puzzles in the first place? Like, why would they bring them back? What was their reasoning for getting rid of it? Was the extra money, or was it just, they didn't want to... It was too complicated.
I could see fill in the blank being too complicated, but there's plenty of things.
I could see
You
Clue
could do
being
for
removed
Clue.
because it kind of goes against the format of the show, where it kind of becomes a trivia game instead of, Hangman.
But if we want to say it goes against the format of the show, let's talk about this crossword puzzle. That goes against the format.
I agree, and that's my biggest problem with it, is I don't feel like it fits.
I
I know I
mean-
was making the quote unquote stupid category quip before, but it also brings up the point where crossword clues is a category that can't be a toss-up, and I don't like that. Is that the only category on the show right now that is restricted regarding when it can actually appear on the show?
Well, it depends on what you mean by restricted. I mean, we wouldn't have had any of the bonus categories. We've never had before and after or same name as a toss-up category. Like, you could, but you wouldn't.
I don't know if it technically goes against the show. I mean, I sort of feel like it's just you're playing Hangman with 3 or 4 different words that happen to connect each other. So it's like you're playing like 3 different puzzles in the same puzzle. And I understand that can be confusing, but I don't think it deviates too far away from what Wheel of Fortune's about.
So how often, JJ, would you want to see the category?
Well, unfortunately, I don't know what the people voted. I think I remember seeing every day in the lead on Twitter, and I'm like, hold on a second. It's a fun element, but every day is a bit much. I think people get tired of seeing what are you doing in the prize puzzles so often. I thought like once a week would be fine. Maybe twice a week would be fine because it's brand new. So I wouldn't mind seeing it that often.
I would eventually like to see it sit into a groove of once every 2 weeks. I think something like that would work as well. I
wouldn't
think
mind
that
that either.
I think that Crossword Clues has a lot of potential to be a really nice prize puzzle. Instead of what are you doing pretty much every other day. Like, what do these 3 things have in common? Those are all things you can find in Hawaii.
I like that.
But at the same time, what are you going to say for the category? Are you not going to reveal it? You can't say it's Hawaii because then they know where
Just
they're
have
going.
the category be Crossword Clues.
Well, no, you could make the thing that connects all the words be something like tropical or fun. Just fun.
Vacation. Sights and sounds. Something generic that alludes to the fact that it's for a trip, but it doesn't say where the trip is. Pack your bags.
I'm sorry, pack your bags.
Sure.
That's really funny.
But yeah, that's Crossword Clues. I mean, apparently, if people are voting for it to be around every day, either people really like it or they're desperate for some sort of change to happen to Wheel of Fortune or some combination thereof. Again, let us know what you think about that. The other
do we want to talk about changes to Wheel of Fortune? Let me keep on going for a couple more hours. You see, we need more Oh, are we not doing that today?
We need something to fill that summer lull that's coming up in a month or so. But the other main thing that happened is To Tell the Truth started airing. Do we feel that it is similar enough to the show? Do we want to posit why they sat on it as long as they did now that we actually see the finished result? And do you think that there's enough quality there for the show to last past its initial run?
I think I can see why they kind of sat on it. It wasn't... Something was missing from it. Like I was happy to see To Tell the Truth come back, which is why I initially, watching at least the first episode, I really enjoyed it. And I was really hopeful after seeing the promos that they kept in the original questioning, sort of, and the original voting they kept in. I was looking forward to it. And watching the first episode, I really did enjoy it because it really didn't deviate that far from what To Tell the Truth was. But I don't know. I think maybe it's a little too long at an hour to really work. Or maybe if they had done 2 half-hour shows like they're doing with the Sunday Fun and Games coming up, because it just seemed to drag a bit. Like I could feel myself losing interest about halfway through. And I think that's the one thing you worry about if you watch like a bunch of panel game shows in a row, is that you might start to lose interest. Like I enjoy What's My Line, I've Got a Secret, and all the Goodson Todman panel shows, but I liked it when I could only see like one of them every week on Sunday nights on Game Show Network, because that was enough. Now we've got an hour-long panel show, and it just seems to drag, even if some of the stuff is interesting.
I don't think that a lot of the shows that ABC's returning are worth an hour's time. The Price is Right's a rare show, or Let's Make a Deal's a show where you can keep it going for an hour without any issues. Stuff like Match Game, which I'm hoping is 2 half-hour shows, because if not, that's going to be a real disaster area. But I also want to make one compliment to the show. I think the change of the celebrity panel to chairs is a lot better than celebrity sitting behind a stand. With all due respect.
So you like the more casual atmosphere that the new version has?
Yes.
I have a question.
I think that a lot of that might have to do with how relaxed the show is. Because, I mean, it's 2016. You can get away with saying more than you could then. Do you feel like it's too far in the loosey-goosey? We're just kind of going to make things, get a little more dirty stuff away? Or do you feel it's still within the confines of network television?
I myself still feel that it is within the confines of network television. I know some people might feel differently about it, because I know that there were some people who had problems with the promos that featured the story about the guy that taught Channing Tatum how to strip. And I know that in the first episode, I believe, had the person who was the pole dancing champion. But I feel like it's 2016. Network television is a lot more lenient. You can say the S word on cable now, when that definitely wasn't something you could say as recently as 10 years ago. And it's a lot you can get away with now on network television, that these make sense for the time that we're living in right now.
All right. And I believe we cut off Randy. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say I have a question because I was confused. I assume it was a element of editing, but as far as the format of the questioning, Did they go in order and they just edited out the bad questions, or was there like just a free for all?
That's what I said when I said that they kept the questioning somewhat. I think what I remember hearing is that they recorded with the traditional questioning, with everybody getting their own turn to question, and that apparently when they took it to air now, they edited it so it made it seem like everybody just free for all asked questions whenever they wanted to.
That seems like unnecessary work.
Yeah, and that's what it looked like to me, because nobody ever like cut each other off or anything else like that. It always seemed like, it was just a basis of editing. As far as the show itself, I liked it. I know they tried to throw in a couple new elements that, like, before you go segment or whatever, they had the other two. I didn't mind that because it's an hour show, but at the same time, I agree with JJ 100%. That I think by the end of it, I was starting to be like looking at my watch, like, okay, like this is a little bit too much for one sitting. Like, I think it would do better as a half-hour show.
But I guess only time will tell to see if they end up adjusting the format at all, or if it gets renewed for that matter.
I don't think it's going to get renewed.
I mean, I'm hoping for the best. I watched like the first 15 minutes of the show that's supposed to be preceding it on a regular basis, the remake of Uncle Buck. It's okay. I don't know why they felt the need to remake Uncle Buck as a television show with Mike Epps.
Because he was available.
I'm not too hopeful to tell the truth, in its time slot that it's in, following summer's number one new comedy. Like, that's supposed to mean something after 1 week on the air.
It's like when a top 40 station says that they're the number one hit music channel. That just means they play number one hits. That doesn't mean they're ranked number one. That's
what I'm saying. It's not the nice spin. That's what.
I just don't think, because I had honestly forgotten that it was going to air until I looked at the guide that night, and I'm in it
almost the day of.
Yeah, and I was like, oh yeah, and like if I forget, and I'm more of a game show fan than the general audience is, I feel like there wasn't enough promotion or enough like garning behind it. So okay, this is on tonight. Like, we all need to watch it. Like, I just don't think it had the following.
Do we know how they did in the ratings?
I could double check. I think it did pretty well. I think the first one at least won its time slot. There wasn't much on that Tuesday night because now we're in summer reruns, and I think it was going up against America's Got Talent at 8 o'clock, but at 10 o'clock it was going up against Maya and Marty on NBC, and again reruns on CBS. So I think it did well its first week, but I think time will certainly tell.
I have the numbers. For the 8 p.m. slot, it's facing America's Got Talent, Hotel Hell, NCIS, which CBS loves to talk about, and The Flash. And it only got a 1.0 out of 4 from adults 18 to 49, but was second to America's Got Talent with 5.43 third rather, with 5.43 behind America's Got Talent and NCIS.
Well, of course, it's NCIS. What about the second airing?
The 10 o'clock airing only faced Maya Marty and Person of Interest. It got a 1.2 out of 5 and 5.20 million viewers, which was last of the three.
That's not surprising. On another night, though, that 5 million would, like on a Friday night, that 5 million would probably make it like number one. So we'll see what happens if it sticks around on Tuesday going up against tough competition.
It's already doing better than the Muppets did in that slot.
That's true. That's unfortunate.
Muppets. I know, I missed that show. Before we head out of here, I'm afraid to ask this question because I feel like whenever I open it up to any little odds and ends, it turns into ranting for 15 minutes about something else. But is there anything else anyone wants to bring to the attention of the group before we go ahead and end the episode?
Well,
without delving into too much, because I know we have a 3-week backlog of stuff to get through.
As I mentioned earlier in the show, Sunday night Fun and Games on ABC will be beginning on June the 26th, which is less than a week away. And it'll feature Celebrity Family Feud, Pyramid, and Match Game, which is taped. Match Game taped the previous week. A lot of, I guess, since, it's so close to airing anyway, there wasn't such a tight hold on what gets out of the set like there was with Pyramid. So a lot of set pictures are out there. We know the format, which is pretty much standard match game daytime format. 2 rounds, super match. The values of the super match have been upped. It looks really good. They went with a very modern retro chic, and we can probably talk about it at greater depths once Sunday Fun and Games premieres next week.
So about this Wheel of Fortune show, I feel like they're very stale, and I need to keep go on, Anime.
I don't have a whole lot to say. I'm excited for the match game revival because, as I brought up in a previous podcast, I want to see how Alec Baldwin does as host, less than I mentioned the panelists or contestants, because as far as I'm aware, this is Alec Baldwin's first true non-Saturday Night Live game show. So it'll be very interesting to see how his personality plays out.
I really
with
hope
that
they
show.
get Tony Bennett as a guest just for that reason.
That would be.
That would be wonderful.
One other thing, listen, GSN's not, loved around here. It hasn't been that great since, 8 years ago now, but the new show premiered on it called Winsanity, hosted by everyone's favorite second Doctor, Donald Faison. And exactly. But it's a fun show. It's about making a list. They give you different items, like this is the number of people who have used, or the number of porta potties in America, and here's the number of toilet paper rolls that people used annually, and here's the number of nose jobs that people got in America. And you have to take these different facts without knowing the numbers, but just hearing what the facts are and rank the list. And if you can correctly rank the list of 10, you will win $10,000 in a brand new car. And it looks pretty fun because, especially the way they select contestants, everybody in the audience is wearing a bracelet. They hit a button to start the game, and that'll light up one person's bracelet. That person will come down to play. They'll play until they lose.
So it takes place in jail.
Right? One of the other fun things about Winsanity, real quickly, though, is that it is an interactive game. You can play along at home. You can also enter in to win. But it's really like the first true foray that GSN has gone into interactive gaming since their old GSN interactive programming ended like 10 years ago or so. And I remember loving how they did the GSN interactive gaming, where you could play along with not only their originals like Friend or Foe or Lingo or Whammy, you could also play along with the shows that they were airing reruns of. You could play along with Super Password, Pyramid, and What's My Line. They had stuff ready and raring to go, and it was a really fun program. And so now Winsanity has sort of brought that back in a way with the ability to play along with the game.
Nice. But that's going to do it for this episode of Contestants Not Appearing on Stage. Thank you so much for listening. On behalf of my co-hosts, I am Torgo. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next time. Till then, bye-bye. Thanks for tuning in to Contestants Not Appearing on Stage, part of the Torgo Entertainment Network. For more episodes of Contestants Not Appearing on Stage, check us out on YouTube or online at CNAOS25 To Tell.